Have you always wanted to buy a vacation cabin in South Lake Tahoe, but when you look at the prices, you get some major sticker shock? And when you've gone and looked at the inside of a few, the ones that you can afford look a little more like the Bates Motel on the inside than they do like the beautiful cabin that you saved on Instagram? Well, that's because affordability has gotten ridiculous in South Lake Tahoe over the last few decades. Almost no one can really afford the beautiful vacation cabin that they'd like to have in South Lake Tahoe. But there is hope. There is a little Northern California town that you've probably never heard of that is Northern California's best kept secret, and I have always said is Tahoe on a budget, or even better yet, it is Tahoe at half the price, and that town is Pollock Pines, California. So today is going to be a town versus town video, but it is a little different than my usual town versus town videos in that I'm not comparing these two towns for you to live in, but I'm comparing them from the perspective of someone wanting to buy a vacation home in that town. So there's going to be less categories of schools and jobs and more categories of nightlife and recreation and maybe short-term rentability and that sort of thing. So we're going to jump right into South Lake Tahoe versus Pollock Pines. Which one is best for you to buy a rental home in? And I think by the end of this video, you're going to see my point that Pollock Pines is the best kept secret in Northern California and is the best place for you to start searching for your next vacation cabin. So let's jump right into criteria number one. Criteria number one when comparing South Lake Tahoe to Pollock Pines is community vibe or feel. And here these two communities are very different. Look, Tahoe is a tourist town. It is booming in the summer with people going boating on the lake and going hiking and mountain biking and rock climbing, and it is booming in the winter with people coming in to go skiing. It has a lot of people going in and out, and it is a busy town. It of course shares the state border with Nevada, and right over the state border of Nevada, gambling is legal. So you have all the casinos and all of that chaos going on up there. So if you're looking for the rowdy party style vacation area, then Lake Tahoe is going to be your jam. Pollock Pines, by contrast, is a sleepy little mountain town. It has everything that Tahoe has to offer at half the price and way, way, way less than half the people, as you'll see in a later segment. So Pollock Pines is that sleepy little mountain town. You can still get your little A-frame chalet cabin in the snow. You still have a beautiful lake. You still have the pine trees. You still have the hiking trails, the mountain biking trails. You can do your cross-country skiing. You can be at ski resorts in 45 minutes. But it's a little town where people live. It's not a chaotic, busy, fast-paced tourist town. So you're going to have to decide what you and your family want. If you were looking for that quiet little getaway cabin in the woods to be off by yourself, Pollock Pines is going to be your jam. If you want the nightlife and the casinos and the crazy tourist town with the zip lines and all the fun and the gondolas, then South Lake Tahoe is going to be your jam as long as it fits within your budget. You'll have to decide which one's right for your family. Hey, if you're getting anything at all out of this video, hit the like button, click subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss another video with crucial information to help you with your relocation. Now, back to Pollock Pines versus South Lake Tahoe. Which one's best for your vacation home? Criteria number two for comparing these two communities, and probably the biggest and most important one on our list today, is housing costs. So in Pollock Pines, the median home price as of the recording of this video in the winter of 2025 is $380,000. Now, by contrast, the median home price in South Lake Tahoe is $788,000, just a little more than double the price of the median home in Pollock Pines. And the size of the homes isn't much difference. In Pollock Pines, you're going to get about a 1,400 square feet on around half an acre, 4/10 of an acre for your $380,000 median home price. In South Lake Tahoe, you're going to get around a 2.2 to 3.2, 1,400 to 1,700 square foot home right there at the median of $788,000. So far and away, you're getting way more home for your money in Pollock Pines. And also, if this is going to be a vacation home or a second home, maybe you don't have a nearly $800,000 budget, but you still want your little cabin in the woods. And that's where Pollock Pines comes in. At $380,000 median home price, you can get a pretty incredible home at $500,000 in Pollock Pines, which still puts you almost 300 grand less than South Lake Tahoe and getting an amazing value for money. In fact, at the end of this video, I will link to another video of a home that one of my clients, one of you guys actually, a YouTube viewer, bought fully furnished vacation home in Pollock Pines for a little over 500 grand, and it is stunning. It is $1 million views at this $500,000 house. So make sure to check that out at the end. But no matter how you cut it, Pollock Pines is less than half the cost of South Lake Tahoe. And as we mentioned in the intro, and I'll talk about in some sections later, it has everything that South Lake Tahoe has to offer except the crowds and casinos. All right, on to criteria number 3. Before we get to criteria number 3, you might be wondering who I am and why you should be listening to me about Tahoe, Pollock Pines, real estate, or anything at all, really, and that's a fair question. My name is Rich Curtis with eXp Realty, and I've been selling homes here in El Dorado County for over 20 years now, in markets ranging from the Great Recession to the COVID market insanity and everything in between. So when it comes to El Dorado County real estate, I've got you covered. My goal with this channel is to help you make the best real estate decisions you can from the comfort of your couch. So to that end, let's jump right back into our comparison of Pollock Pines to South Lake Tahoe so you can decide which one's best for your vacation home. Criteria number 3 to compare these two towns comes down to size and population. So size, talking about the land area of the two towns. Well, Pollock Pines comes in at 8.62 square miles, and South Lake Tahoe comes in at just a little over 10 square miles. So they're pretty darn close there, with South Lake Tahoe being just slightly larger than Pollock Pines. Now, it's only slightly larger, as you see, around 2 square miles larger, but the population difference is massive, with South Lake Tahoe coming in at just a little over 10,700 people and Pollock Pines coming in at just a little over 5,700 people. So here again, South Lake Tahoe is not just double the price, it is double the people. And when we're talking about population, we are talking about full-time year-round residents. When it comes down to the transient population, the tourist, by transient I don't mean homeless, the tourist population, then Tahoe absolutely explodes from there. So just day to day, you've got double the population sitting in about the same land area in South Lake Tahoe as you do in Pollock Pines. And then during the tourist season, when it's time to come up and go power boating in the summer, when it's time to come up and go skiing in the winter, thousands more pour into town for the tourist seasons. And that makes South Lake Tahoe, no matter how you slice it, a lot bigger, a lot busier, and a lot more crowded. And what I've found with my clients over the years who have bought vacation homes in South Lake Tahoe is they find that it isn't the peace and tranquility in the quiet cabin in the woods that they thought it would be. South Lake Tahoe, frankly, is a very suburban/urban style environment more than it is a rural environment because of the casinos and the tourist industry there. So it's something to consider. If all of that is a benefit to your family, if you want to be able to go out and play laser tag and ride the gondola up to Heavenly and then go out to the casinos at night or see a concert while you're up there at your vacation cabin, then South Lake Tahoe is for you. But if you want to just sit by the fire at your cabin in the woods and read a book and go for a nice hike and go for a swim in the lake and that sort of thing and have a quiet, calm retreat type experience, then far and away Pollock Pines gets the win there. Criteria number 4 when comparing these two communities is the lake. Like I said, Pollock Pines is Tahoe at half the price, but it has all the great things that Tahoe has. Tahoe has Lake Tahoe. It is gorgeous. Pollock Pines has Jenkinson Lake. Sometimes you'll hear people refer to it as Sly Park or Sly Park Lake because it's right off of Sly Park Road, but the technical name is Jenkinson Lake, and it is also gorgeous. Now, look, if you've been to these two places, you're, throwing your popcorn at the screen right now and saying, look, Jenkinson is no South Lake Tahoe. And you're right. South Lake Tahoe is amazing. People come from all over the world to see the lake and to hike around the lake and to play on the lake. It is really an amazing and beautiful, one-of-a-kind place. And it is way, 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 way larger of a lake than is Jenkinson Lake. So I get it. It is not apples to apples. But as you can see by the footage on your screen, Jenkinson Lake is no slouch. This is a beautiful alpine lake surrounded by pine trees with snow-capped Sierra views in the background. Now, both lakes allow power boating, but to be fair, South Lake Tahoe is a lot larger and you can pretty much get out there and rip as fast as you want in just about any size boat that you want. you're gonna have to be in a smaller boat and going slower on Jenkinson Lake, but you still have access to powerboat, jet ski, wakeboard, water ski, tubing, all that stuff behind the boat. Fishing, if you want to do that. Those are available on both lakes and in a beautiful environment to boot. Jenkinson Lake also has an area, a whole huge cove that is just a 5 mile an hour or less speed limit zone that's great for all of your non-motorized boating, your paddleboarding, your kayaking, your canoeing. Now, if you've tried to go paddleboarding on South Lake Tahoe on a busy day, one, you know the wind is so bad you're probably going to be blown back into the beach, and two, the chop from the boats going every which way makes it kind of rough to do, really, unless you're off to the side in Emerald Bay or something like that. Now, by contrast, this cove in Jenkinson Lake is great and glassy and wonderful to go out in your non-motorized boats if that's your thing. Now, Jenkinson Lake also has a trail system around it. South Lake Tahoe has a trail system around it, also, though, very broken up by different towns and things like that because it's massive. Jenkinson has a little over an 8 mile loop all the way around the lake for hiking, jogging, walking the dogs, playing with the kids, and the mountain biking is great on that trail as well. They have Park Creek Falls out there, a beautiful waterfall that you can take a long hike to from the second dam or just a 1 mile hike from the end of the road. There's also a lot of camping around Jenkinson Lake, right there in the Sly Park Recreation area. Now, if you've tried to go camping up at South Lake Tahoe, you'll know there is essentially no real lakefront camping, and the places that you can camp are on the other side of the road away from the lake, and it's really hard to book a site in there. It's really impacted. Versus Jenkinson, you can almost always get a site in there, and they have lakefront right there, lake view campsites all the way around, including large group campsites for your family reunions and that kind of stuff, or your school trips or any of that. Or if you just have a large family, you can book the group site. There are RV sites available with hookups. It is an amazing recreational area, this little lake in Pollock Pines. And I think from a recreational standpoint, it rivals South Lake Tahoe without the tourist crowds and without the inability to get a campsite unless you're booking a year in advance like you have up in South Lake Tahoe. So, are the two lakes the same? No. Is South Lake Tahoe wildly more gorgeous than Jenkinson Lake? Sure. But Jenkinson Lake is a gorgeous little local Sierra lake with a ton of recreation around it, such that if you buy a vacation home in Pollock Pines, you're never going to run out of things to do down at Jenkinson Lake. It really is an awesome place to be. We live in Placerville, but we go up there all the time because it's cooler up there, about 10 degrees cooler in the summer than it is in Placerville, and a great place to go swim and play with the kids and the dogs in the summer. So, 1-to-1, is there a lake in both places? Yes. Is there lake recreation in both places? Yes, but you get it for half the price and half the crowds in Pollock Pines. Criteria number 5 when comparing these two towns is snow. Yes, they both have snow. Now, South Lake Tahoe is at about 6,200 feet above sea level, and Pollock Pines, depending on where you are, is between 4,500 and 3,500 feet above sea level, with the average being about 4,000. The lake itself is right around 3,700. So both places get significant snow, and I think people discount how much snow Pollock Pines gets, and some people get really caught out and surprised by that. It is real legitimate snow, 4-foot snow drifts lasting for weeks at a time in Pollock Pines. It's real snow. As you can see by the footage on your screen of me driving through the snow on Sly Park Road, it is real snow country in Pollock Pines. So if you're out to go sledding, if you're out to go cross-country skiing, if you're out to have a snowball fight or build snowmen with the kids, both places are going to be amazing and have plenty of snow to keep you occupied and having a good time. Now, the one thing that Tahoe has over Pollock Pines is they have the ski resort. So if skiing is your thing and you're buying this cabin specifically to just ski every day that you're at the cabin, then South Lake Tahoe might get the win there for your family if it's within your budget. But do bear in mind that Pollock Pines is just a 45-minute drive from our little local ski resort, Sierra Tahoe, that is amazing. So you can get your cabin in Pollock Pines at half the price and take a 45-minute drive and be at the ski resort real quick from your cabin in Pollock Pines. So if skiing is something you like to do, but it's not something you're gonna do every time you visit the cabin, then I think Pollock Pines still gets the win there. But if you are the die-hard ski and snowboard family, then probably Tahoe wins for snow for your family. But for just playing in the snow and having a great time, Pollock Pines will do the trick at half the price. Look, if by the end of this video you still aren't sure if Pollock Pines is right for you or South Lake Tahoe, or you want to consider some of our other towns here in El Dorado County and you just can't figure it out, feel free to reach out to me via the contact information on your screen or in the description down below. Like I said, I've been selling homes here for over 20 years and I've helped hundreds of families just like yours decide where to land in El Dorado County, and I'm always happy to help. Now, to that end, let's jump right back into our list of comparing Tahoe to Pollock Pines to see which one might be right for your family. Criteria number 6 when comparing these two towns is the pine trees. Seems kind of funny we're comparing towns based on their trees, but one of the things people want when they think about their cabin in the woods and they envision their little A-frame chalet, beautiful vacation cabin in the woods is woods, trees, and they're not envisioning it in the oak trees. Well, South Lake Tahoe is great for that. You have tall pine trees all over the place, and it is that picturesque, perfect cabin in the pines feel. However, Pollock Pines has the same thing, and you might find actually it has that at more of the houses than does South Lake Tahoe, especially at the budget end of the spectrum. So at 4,000 feet above sea level, Pollock Pines is solidly in the pine trees. It's above the oak belt. It is tall pine trees, cabin in the woods feeling. But here's the difference. Pollock Pines is a very rural place. South Lake Tahoe, due to its popularity and population density, again, 20,700 people and some change, in the same land area that Pollock Pines has 5,700 people and some change, it is much more impacted. And so it has been built out in neighborhoods with sort of normal houses in normal neighborhoods that aren't kind of tucked into the pine trees and don't have that isolated cabin feel. So 1-to-1, if I showed you 10 houses in South Lake Tahoe, especially if they were at or below the median home price for South Lake Tahoe, a lot of them are going to just look like little older homes in a neighborhood like you'd find in any town. Versus in Pollock Pines, even at the really budget end of the spectrum, median home price or below, you're still going to be getting a lot of A-frames and chalets with a lot of pine trees around them, with a lot of greenbelt space and woods in the back. So dollar for dollar, if you're looking for that sort of isolated cabin in the woods isolated cabin in the woods feel, then Pollock Pines is going to get the win there. If you don't mind being in suburbia so that you can have all of that other nightlife and fun that comes with South Lake Tahoe, then maybe South Lake Tahoe is right for you. Criteria number 7 to compare these two towns comes down to recreation. And now look, this is a hard one because both these towns are amazing for outdoor recreation. And there's not much difference between the two, with a couple of highlights that I'll point out. So I think no matter what, if you are into outdoor recreation, if you're into outdoor adventure sports, if you're just into being outside, both of these towns are amazing, and they're probably pretty close to the same in this category. But let's go through it. So in both towns, you can get out on the lake and, like I said, powerboat, non-motorized boat, water ski, jet ski, wakeboard, all that business you can do in both places. When it comes to lake recreation, if you like to be sort of more quiet and off to the side and fishing and do a little tubing with your family and not have the craziness, then Jenkinson Lake and Pollock Pines gets the win. If you want to have a 32-foot boat and put the hammer down and be doing 80 miles an hour and going nuts and cranking the tunes and all of that, and that's your jam, then South Lake Tahoe is going to be much better for that. You're not going to get away with that on Jenkinson. Now, when it comes to other types of recreation, mountain biking, Lake Tahoe's world-class mountain biking. It's amazing. Pollock Pines is going to have less, but they do have a great trail around the lake. So when it comes down to mountain biking, both places are awesome. But if it's sheer volume of different trails, then Tahoe gets the win there. There's also the Bijou Bike Park for working on your skills there in South Lake Tahoe. So that is a great resource for mountain bikers as well, or just for the families to take the kids over to the bike park and entertain them for the day in the summer. When it comes down to skiing, you're going to do cross-country skiing great in either place. Snowshoeing great in either place. But downhill skiing and snowboarding, obviously, you've got more resorts in Tahoe, more access. Tahoe gets the win there. But if you like to be at a slower, smaller, quieter, more locals resort, then Pollock Pines with the 45-minute drive to Sierra Tahoe might just work for you. When it comes down to rock climbing, Tahoe's going to get the win there. Lots more access to rock climbing up there. There is some smaller local areas that can be accessed from Pollock Pines, but hands down, Tahoe is going to be better for the climbers in the group. Now, just general hiking, getting out on the trails, being outside, playing with the kids, both places are amazing. So I think you can't go wrong in either location when it comes to recreation. There's just a couple of things. If you want the ski resorts, if you want a golf course, then South Lake Tahoe is going to be your jam. And if you want to go crazy and be, going full bore on the powerboat out in the lake, Lake Tahoe is going to be your place. For everything else, Pollock Pines will suffice at half the price. Before we jump into the next criteria, I just realized that I made a super dorky rhyme at the end of the last criteria. I apologize for that. I will avoid rhyming in this next one. But criteria number 8 for comparing these two places comes down to traffic. Now, far and away, hands down, Pollock Pines is going to get the win here. Tahoe traffic is awful in the summer and is awful in the winter at any peak tourist time. Friday night, when everybody's pouring in, traffic's going to be really heinous. And Sunday afternoon, when everybody's pouring out, heading back to the Bay Area, traffic's going to be really heinous. Now, certainly Pollock Pines suffers from that traffic because it's in between the Bay Area and South Lake Tahoe, but the town, in town, moving around, you're not going to be jammed up by that traffic in Pollock Pines. If you don't have to get on the freeway, none of that's going to affect you. So you can get up to your cabin in Pollock Pines and go in and be at your cabin and go to the lake and go to the grocery store and do everything you need without dealing with Tahoe traffic, while everybody in South Lake Tahoe has the traffic on the freeway getting up there, and then all around town through South Lake Tahoe, the traffic is going to be miserable. So no matter how you slice it, when it comes to traffic, if you don't want to deal with traffic consistently while you're away at your vacation cabin, then Pollock Pines gets the win there when it comes to traffic. Now, along with traffic comes access. How hard is it to get there? And here's another place where Pollock Pines gets the win. And I think people have discounted Pollock Pines in this regard. When there's a really, really bad storm, getting over Echo Summit, which is the top of Highway 50 going into Tahoe, into South Lake Tahoe, can be really challenging and they can get closed down. There's definitely very often chain control in almost every storm, but then they shut it down if it gets too gnarly out there. So if you have a vacation cabin in South Lake Tahoe and it's an epic weekend dumping tons of powder, the bummer is you might just not be able to get into your cabin, or you might get to Pollock Pines or Myers or Strawberry and find out by the time you get there, they've now shut down the summit and you're turning around and getting a hotel in Pollock Pines or Placerville and trying to get over the pass in the morning to get into your cabin in Tahoe and go skiing. By contrast, even in the worst of storms, chain control drops to Sly Park Road in Pollock Pines. In the most epic worst storms that we've had up here, chain control gets down to like Camino. But if you tell the chain control guys that you live in Pollock Pines, they're going to let you through, especially if you've got all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, or some decent tires on the vehicle. They're not even going to make you chain up. They know you're local. They know you know what you're doing. They'll let you through to get off and go. So you can almost always get to your cabin in Pollock Pines, and that is not true of your cabin in South Lake Tahoe. There's also only 2 to 2.5 hours without traffic to get from the Bay Area, from the San Jose area or San Francisco area to Pollock Pines, and it's another full hour or more depending on weather to get up to South Lake Tahoe. So it's a lot quicker and easier access. So over the years, my clients who have bought vacation homes in Pollock Pines have found they use them more often and are always able to get to them versus my clients who buy in South Lake Tahoe. Criteria number 9 to compare these two towns, South Lake Tahoe to Pollock Pines, comes down to nightlife. Now, for me personally, when I think about going to my vacation cabin, I don't think about nightlife, but you might be different than me. And you might be in the stage of life where going out and partying and going to shows and going to bars and going to casinos is still something you very much like to do. And in that case, when it comes to nightlife, hands down, far and away, South Lake Tahoe gets the win there. There is no nightlife in Pollock Pines. I mean, like none. There's a couple of restaurants. You can go out, you can have a beer, have dinner with a friend, and that's it. They pretty much pull the curbs in around 9 or 10 at night and it's all over. There's not a nightclub or a bar or a concert venue really to speak of in Pollock Pines. Versus in South Lake Tahoe, of course, you have concert venues, you have casinos, you have tourist things, you can play laser tag, you can ride the gondola, you can take a sunset, booze cruise on the lake. There's all sorts of things you can do for nightlife in South Lake Tahoe. So if you want to get away for the weekend and have access to all this cool, fun nightlife, then South Lake Tahoe, if it's in your budget, is far and away going to get the win there. For those of you buying in Pollock Pines, there is no nightlife. Don't expect any, like none. Criteria number 10 to compare these two towns is short-term rentability of your vacation cabin. Look, if you're buying a vacation cabin, it means you by definition are not living there, are not there all the time. Now, some of you may prefer to just pay for that thing and let it sit there vacant and be available to you and only your family. You're not comfortable renting it out. And others of you want to use it to generate income to offset the mortgage costs. When you're not using it, you want to make a little money on it, and that makes a lot of sense and makes owning a vacation cabin or second home a lot more affordable for most families. Now, when it comes to short-term rentability, this is always a challenge. This is always something you have to really dig into before you commit to it, because there's a lot of laws and rules and regulations surrounding this. So of course, when I'm talking about short-term rentability, I'm talking about Airbnb, VRBO, that sort of thing, right? Not long-term, normal, steady rentals. In point of fact, I told you at the end of this video, I will link to a video for a great fully furnished vacation cabin that one of you, my YouTube viewers, were able to get in Pollock Pines. And when I helped that family with that purchase, the reason that was a fully furnished vacation cabin was because someone bought it, didn't do their research, wanted to go pull an Airbnb permit from the county to rent it out, and found out that a neighbor around the corner had already pulled a permit, and you can't have two permits within a certain geographic range of each other. And so he couldn't get a permit to rent this house out. The previous owner actually tried to do it without the permit, and then the county shut him down. The other person, by the way, wasn't even running the house as an Airbnb. They had the permit but weren't using it. That still stopped him from being able to do it, and he ended up not being able to afford to keep the house and having to sell it. His loss was my client's gain. That was great for my client, but you don't want to be on the wrong side of that story. So when it comes to short-term rentability, far and away, Pollock Pines would get the win there. I could do a 3-video series on the absolute insanity of the rules around short-term Airbnb style rentals in South Lake Tahoe. It's been just an absolute debacle up there, and rightly so. The locals who live there end up having people buy vacation cabins, rent them out Airbnb style, and they have hot tubs, and people are partying till all hours of the night and keeping their kids up, and it's become this big community battle. To do it, you end up having to have it open to like community discussion and comment periods, and it's a big hairy deal up there. Can you do it? Yes. You have to jump through a lot of hoops. It's very expensive. It's very challenging. There's always the risk of getting shut down if your short-term tenants aren't following the rules, and you have to be really sort of hardcore about the rules with your tenants, which makes it a little less palatable to people. You know, they come in, they read all the rules, and they feel like you're being super uptight, and that's just the rules for having a short-term rental in South Lake Tahoe. So, can you do it 100% in either area? No. You have to do your research. You have to make sure a permit's available. And will you be able to even apply for and get a permit during your escrow period? No. You don't even own the house. Can't apply for the permit. So there's always going to be a risk there. What you can do is check with the county and make sure there's no other permit holder within your range in Pollock Pines, so that you at least have the option to get a permit, so you know it's possible for you. That's what we can accomplish during an escrow period for you. Up in South Lake Tahoe, you're taking a massive risk buying anything unless it's already got a permit. And even if it already has a permit, there's no guarantee that permit's transferable to you. So when it comes to running a short-term rental to offset your mortgage costs and earning a little money off of your vacation cabin, that's going to be way, way, way easier to do, although not guaranteed, in Pollock Pines than it will be able to be done in South Lake Tahoe. Something for you to consider if you were thinking about renting out your vacation home. All right, that wraps up our discussion of which town is better to own a vacation cabin in, South Lake Tahoe or Pollock Pines, California. And I hope this has really helped you decide which one would be best for your family. I rarely come to a conclusion in these videos. I usually leave it up to you which is best for your family, because every family is different. However, in this particular video, I think far and away when it comes to value for money, Pollock Pines gets the massive win when it comes to a location for a vacation cabin in Northern California. Like I said at the opening, I think this little town is Northern California's best kept secret. It's everything that is amazing about Tahoe at less than half the price. And I think it represents a great opportunity for you and your family to maybe achieve that dream of having a vacation cabin that may be financially out of reach forever in South Lake Tahoe. So I think it's worth considering. But either way, whether it's South Lake Tahoe or Pollock Pines for your family, I appreciate you watching and getting this far with me. Now, if you want to take a deeper dive, go ahead and click this video right here on the pros and cons of living in Pollock Pines. Or you can click this video right here on the cost of living in Pollock Pines to see what it'll cost you to run your vacation vacation cabin here. Or, as I mentioned a couple times in the video, you can click this video right here to see what one of you, my YouTube viewers, was able to get at just over 500 grand here in Pollock Pines. And spoiler alert, it's an absolute stunner. So as always, thanks for watching, thanks for making it to the end with me, and I'll see you on the next one.